One of the reasons that we want to share this, because this is really important. So for a lot of people that might have lost their jobs or are on fixed income and they're getting a check from either their pension or Social Security, it really becomes important to go, okay, can they really afford to live in those big cities, or is the lifestyle that they're having really what they want? And so being able to come down here and have your dollar stretch and go so much farther and to be able to have so much more with that money, I think is important to a lot of people. Hello, everybody. Good morning. It's Kanoa here with Baja123.com in Rosarito Beach, Mexico. And I'm here with Louis. Good morning, Louis.
Good morning, everybody. How you doing, Kanoa?
I'm doing good. We're getting ready to give everybody their June 1st market update for 2020. We're still in lockdown right now. We were hoping to get out of this quickly, but it doesn't seem like it's going to happen too quickly. Maybe, hopefully, in the next few weeks, we'll be unlocking Rosarito Beach and everything will start hopefully getting back to whatever the normal is going to be for our area. But for right now, we want to give everybody a market update for the people that are interested in Rosarito Beach real estate and let them know what's happening, because I think there's some stuff going on here that was a little surprising for us. And I think that especially people that are interested in real estate here are going to be interested in hearing about.
Absolutely. So let me go ahead and start by sharing my screen because we have an awesome presentation. So
yeah, absolutely. Okay, so once again, this is the real estate market update for June 1st, 2020. And there's a beautiful photo of, I believe it's one of our clients' balconies looking off onto the Rosarito Beach. I'm not sure what development that is, but
that's actually in our home in Club Marina. And I'm saying our home because our office is in the same development.
That's right, huh? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's around K38. Okay, go ahead to the first slide. Okay, so right now, really what we're going to do is there's going to be some videos in our presentation, everybody. We're going to share with you some videos supporting some of the ideas that we had already started realizing. And it was really interesting because this video that we're showing you right now is going to be coming from Redfin, the CEO of one of the biggest real estate companies in the U.S. But this video was actually found after we got done working on most of this presentation we're going to share with you this morning. But it's interesting. The interesting part is he's seeing a lot of the same things that we were seeing, and he's going to present it to you this morning in the video. And then from there, we'll be able to go through and show you how this actually applies to Mexico and specifically our area, Rosarito Beach. So go ahead, Louis, and play the video.
Nobody was selling in March or April unless she absolutely had to. There was a sign of distress or panic in the market, and so sellers just withdrew. There weren't many foreclosures because we've got so much forbearance in the lending markets, and that just means there was very little inventory. In April, inventory was down 25%, even though demand is nearly at 100%.
What's your take on whether or not this is the right strategy? I mean, is your forecast that the market will dramatically improve? Because that effectively is a bet on the consumer, is a bet on the economy, and a bet that this historically high unemployment rate will return to normal.
Well, I think it's a tale of two economies right now. The people who have lost their jobs are not the ones looking for houses, but housing has in some ways become a luxury good in America. Most affluent Americans are the ones who own homes. Home ownership rates are down about 10% since the great financial crisis. So we're seeing the people who have money buying houses in force and the inventory just being very low. So there could be another shock to the economy. Everyone's worried that this coronavirus will come back in force. And if that happens, I think it'll really take its toll on the housing market. But for now, buyers are coming out of the woodwork, and sooner or later that will lure sellers into the market just because it's driving prices up. People are gaining confidence that they can put their home on the market and really sell.
You look around the country, Glenn, and where do you see markets that are going to be in trouble and distressed potentially, and where do you see the opportunity?
Yeah, well, I'm worried about the big cities. If you look, Americans who are working from home for the first time, 1 in 4 say they're not going back to the office. And half of those people say they're not going to pay the rent to live in New York, San Francisco, or even Seattle. So we expect there will be something close to an exodus from these really large cities where housing is so expensive to places like Charleston or Madison, Wisconsin, or Boise, Idaho, places where it's just more affordable and you can still walk around town a little bit. that's where the search traffic has already shifted on our website. If you look where people are searching on redfin.com, it is overwhelmingly in small towns. And that's even when the search traffic is coming from the big city. So that's what I'm most worried about, is that the big cities really have to get it in gear to make housing more affordable, or people are just going to go.
You know, there have been so many dire predictions in the past regarding New York City specifically and the real estate market, Glenn, as you know. I mean, after 9/11, they thought that the real estate market there would be gone, and nobody would want to live in New York City anymore. And then look where it went after that in terms of luxury building and the influx of residents. So, I mean, how confident are you that, that this sort of prediction is going to hold true this time around? What has changed that makes it more resonant?
Well, I think 9/11 was this incredible event that made people question whether they wanted to live in a big city, but it wasn't as durable as what we're going through now. There was an affordability crisis for 5 years before this pandemic. And if you look at New York, it was losing people to Philly. Boston was losing people to Rhode Island and New Hampshire. Seattle was losing people to Portland and Austin, Texas. So the major cities were already losing people prior to the pandemic. And some of that was because of virtualization, where folks were telecommuting from other cities. And now I just think it's a really strong trend that people are going to stay at home in some cases. I can't wait to get back to the office. Not everyone's going to do that. And I love cities. I live in the center of a city. I love New York too. So I don't want to bet against those cities in some permanent way, but I do think that the search traffic and the long-term trend are both pointing in the same direction, which is outside of town.
You know, another trend that may emerge and may prove to be lasting, Glenn, is that people may not want to travel more in the way that they used to. I mean, right now, the idea of staying at a hotel is not really appealing to me. Are you finding that there's been an uptick in interest in buying vacation homes?
No. So if we were to look at the one group of people who are selling in greater numbers, it would be people who have investment properties. So if you are renting out a place on Airbnb, right now is just costing you so much money. It used to be that you could get somebody to pay your mortgage in the second or third week of every month. But now the challenge is that none of those people are traveling. And so the owners of those properties are listing them in great numbers. And in some ways, you can almost see Airbnb's loss as the gain of some of these iBuyers that are trying to provide liquidity in these vacation markets.
So everybody, you know what was really interesting was this video. Once again, me and Louis had been looking at some of our statistics and our search traffic, and we were tracking it, and we were already having these same conversations. So what the CEO of Redfin just explained was something that we are also seeing here with our clients and on the leads and the people that are coming down. We're seeing people that are wanting to leave the big cities. So this is going to be interesting. We're going to share with you some information on where they're coming from and why we think this is happening. So go ahead, Louis, go to the next slide.
So actually, this is actually a video coming from CNN. And so I'm going to go ahead and play it for us.
A ninth week of unemployment claims in the millions, 2.4 million new first-time unemployment claims. These are numbers that would just have been unthinkable 9 weeks ago, and now they are routine. Every Thursday morning, we learn more about the millions of people who have lost a job or been furloughed and who are filing for the very first time for unemployment benefits. Over the past 9 weeks, that is 38.6 million claims here. Now, one hopes that April was the bottom, but you can see that into May now, these big layoffs are continuing. A couple of factors here. These states have to clear the backlogs, big backlogs of people who've been trying to file for unemployment benefits and haven't been counted yet. So that's one reason. Another, there is this fear of a second wave of layoffs here. So now that you're 8-9 weeks into this, that's 2 rent payments, 2 mortgage payments, 2 car payments. Employers are cutting more workers loose.
Absolutely. So one of the things is right now is that we feel that one of the reasons that there are so many people looking is obviously because of this pandemic has caused so much unemployment. And so we're right now, I think we heard that today there are around 38 million people have filed for unemployment, which is an incredible number. If you think about that, that's almost like the whole state of California. I mean, think about San Diego, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Orange County. I mean, there's just an incredible amount of people that are out of work right now. A lot of them are probably in big cities. And those people in the big cities, these are high cost areas. They're highly dense and populated areas. Maybe they don't feel safe. Maybe they're out of work, or they're questioning whether they're going to be able to keep their jobs. And it's pretty much unaffordable to live in some of these places. And they're going, okay, well, where do we go from here? And that's why we put this slide up here going, this is probably why we're seeing such a high number of traffic, specifically right now, looking at Rosarito Beach. And so go ahead to the next slide. So one of the other trends that we're seeing is because of the trade wars, and we're hearing more and more as this is ratcheting up with China, and there was so much money going into China as far as the manufacturing and for other reasons. And we're starting to see the tensions building up between a lot of the countries in China, and we're starting to see a lot of that investment that's going into China is going to other places. And what we're going to show you right now is a couple of videos of why we think that some of that money, and probably a good portion, could be and possibly could be coming to Mexico. And if you think about it, with that money coming to Mexico, what ends up happening is we end up building a better middle class in Mexico. We have more jobs, we have more infrastructure. We just create a better North America, and the shipping and the trade, the shipping costs to get products into the United States and into Canada and even other places in the world will just be better. So we're looking at some of this information that we're seeing that could be coming to Mexico, and we're excited to see, hopefully Mexico takes advantage of this opportunity and grabs some of this market share from China. Go ahead and play the first video, Louis.
The biggest risk out there right now is China. It's so central to supply chains globally, and more broadly, Northeast Asia, so central to supply chains globally. And they just keep tripping up month after month, and I think it's really problematic for the world.
So if that's a key premise of your investment strategy and your thinking at the moment, does that mean that you really like places like Vietnam? I mean, are you looking at ways to take advantage of these risks that, as you've just pointed out, China poses, in particular when it comes to supply chains, manufacturing?
Yeah, I think that's fine, but I think Vietnam, Mexico, even places like Thailand, places that are substitutional to China. Vietnam's a bit stretched right now. There's been so much capacity moving into Vietnam that I think you need to really be careful about your considerations in going to Vietnam. I've been saying for months, I think Mexico is the biggest opportunity. I think Mexico will benefit the most from the trade war. I think the USMCA passing, this is NAFTA 2, passing will help Mexico in a big way. So I really see Mexico as the big winner over the next 6 to 12 to 18 months. And that's a place that I'd be looking hard.
Once again, I got one more video. I want you just to support this theory. Go ahead, Louis. Go to the next one.
Another country that has benefited a lot from China's manufacturing downturn, especially over the last 2 years, has been Mexico. Tempest Capital has estimated that Mexico will be receiving between $12 billion and $19 billion in Chinese manufacturing redirects per year for the near future. And in fact, one survey of 160 executives by Foley and Lardner suggested that 2/3 of large corporations in the United States were planning on moving at least part of their manufacturing base out of China and into Mexico within 2 years. Now, who knows how many of these companies will actually follow through with their plans, but there's a lot of data that is showing how Mexico is already becoming a bigger manufacturing hub of the world. For example, in 2017, Mexico's exports to the United States have increased by roughly 14% to a whopping $320 billion. And just in perspective, that is about 42% of what China exports to the United States. So they're still quite a ways away, but they are gaining ground every single year.
Okay, so, I think these videos are showing about what could be coming to Mexico, and I really hope that Mexico sees this as an opportunity to grab some of that foreign investment that's going into China and bringing it in over here to Mexico. I think the opportunities for the Mexican people to be able to find jobs, the infrastructure that can be built around it is going to be, we're already seeing it coming in, but I think there's such an opportunity to grab so much more of that, especially right now, because just this morning we are hearing about how the tension between China and the U.S. is escalating. And once again, this would be a great opportunity for Mexico to step in because there's so many reasons why it would be a benefit for Mexico. Okay, go ahead and go to the next slide, Louis. What we want to show you right now is we're going to go back and we're going to look at our analytics account. This is specifically for Baja123.com. We have other websites. We have social media accounts, YouTube accounts, blogs, and other things, but we're going to look at one of our websites. This is our main website, and we want to show you the demographics. And this was something that we started looking at about 60 days ago, and it was really surprising. If you look at the map that you see online right now, are all the places in the world that are specifically looking at our website. And our website's mainly built around bringing people from all around the world to think about coming to move to Rosarito Beach. And so right now it's really interesting to see how much blue is on this map. Obviously, the United States is the darkest blue because that's where most of the traffic is coming from. But we've got blue spots lit up all around the world right now. And so we're going to go in and we're going to show you some of the traffic that's coming in specifically from some of these areas around the world. The first one is obviously the United States, that we are getting almost over 80,000 people. 94,000 is coming from all around the world. And then we're going in from there, we're going to Mexico, which is the next highest traffic place that we're seeing people that are looking on the website. And then from there is Canada. And then there's other places around the world. And what's happening is what we're seeing is that people from all around the world want to get closer to the United States, might not necessarily want to move back to the United States. So they want to come into what we believe is they're looking at Rosarito Beach for a reason, because we're within driving distance of the United States. So they kind of get best of both worlds. So in the United States right now, these are the top places that we're seeing traffic coming from. And this was really surprising for us because obviously we always know that California is one of the most traffic areas that are looking to move to our area. And so California right now is number one with over 62% of the traffic, over 51,000 people have been looking this year. But it was number two that really surprised us. And if you look at the number two, it's coming from Illinois. And this is really where it got interesting for us because Illinois has never shown up to be in our top 10. And for that to be the number two traffic state right now for us, it was surprising. And we wanted to really get more into that and understand, well, what's going on right now? And we started looking at this like 60 days ago and started seeing these trends started happening. Go ahead. And the next one is obviously Texas. Texas has been on our top 5 list for probably the last 10 years. So there's a lot of interest coming from Texas. And go ahead, keep going, Louis. But if you want to look at where they're coming from these places, from these states, we're seeing that they're coming from the cities. So we've got the top cities in these states that are showing that people are looking, going, you know what, we want out of these big cities. So right now, Dallas, Austin, Houston, all on the top 3 places. These are all big cities in Texas. People are going, hey, you know what? We want out of these big cities for whatever the reasons are. They're looking to get into, they're looking to move, and specifically right now into Rosarito Beach, because that's what our website's all about. So go ahead and go to the next slide. And right now in Illinois, this was really interesting, which we found was that there was one, if you look at it, 94% of the people in Illinois are coming from Chicago. Over 9,000 people are looking at our website right now, and we found that very interesting. I think it just goes to support what we've already been talking about, as people do not want to be in the big cities anymore. They're looking to move out. They want some room around where they live. They want to have probably a bigger yard, a house with a home office. So people are starting to get ready. They're starting to look to see what their options are, because either they've lost their jobs, they're probably going into an early retirement. So the people that maybe thought they were going to retire in a few years are going, you know what, maybe now's a better time. We better go find out where we're going. And right now, the good news is a lot of them are looking at Mexico and specifically Rosarito Beach. And in California, I'd like to share these stats with you because these are obvious stats for us because we followed these trends for a really long time. But Los Angeles has been number 1 for like the last 5 years, followed by San Diego and Chula Vista as far as the traffic. So this is where a majority of the traffic is coming from, California. But if you look, they're coming from some of the big cities in California. People want out of these big cities. Okay, Louis, next slide, please. And from all that traffic that we've been getting, I want to show you the leads that we're getting. So these are leads. And when we say a lead, this is somebody that goes, I want to move to your area and I want to live specifically in Rosarito Beach. And yes, I have the money to go down there and buy a place. And from there, we assign these leads to our agents and then we start tracking them. So right now, you can see on the buyers, there's such a difference between the amount of buyers compared to sellers. and renters. So what this is telling you is that there's going to be more buyers than sellers. So we're in a buyer's market. And the other thing is that we could be coming up against an inventory problem. We've already really been experiencing that because there hasn't been a lot of construction in our area since 2008 to 12. There's been a few developments, but not anywhere near the level it was prior to 2008. We're expecting an inventory problem with all of the interest that's coming down here and all the people that want to move that we believe are going to end up, some of them are going to end up moving down here. The options are getting smaller and smaller for those people. So what we're wanting to tell people is if you do see something that you like, don't hesitate, because as we feel that we come out of the health crisis part of this, we're going to see people start moving around more. We're going to see the activity start picking up, where we're going to see actually more people coming down and purchasing and/or renting those properties, which is just going to tighten up the supply. Okay, so why Rosarito Beach? So pre-crisis, in 2019, there's some obvious reasons that we've talked about a lot on our website, and I'm just going to go over those again with you guys, just so we can support our theory of what's happening right now. So obviously we got some of the best weather in the world because we're right next door to San Diego. On really clear days, I can see San Diego from our balcony. I don't want to say even we have weather here because the weather really doesn't change that much. And I think because of that, it makes it really an ideal place for people that might be living in extreme weather places. Are also looking to move to something a little bit more stable. We also, the driving distance, which is key right now, and it's one of the biggest points that we want to make is that driving distance. In today's world where we saw that the airports can all of a sudden get shut down, you don't want to be stuck in a place that you can't drive to where it is you want to get back to either your business or your home or your family. So having that accessibility, like we do with Rosarito Beach, we never saw the borders get shut down. The borders, there were restrictions for certain travel, both coming both ways, but they never got shut down, which meant if you needed to for essential travel, you could always get back and forth across the border, which I think gives people a sense of security. So if they're living down here and they have medical issues or they have family or for whatever reasons, they can always get back and forth across the border, which I think is starting to become more and more important, especially in a day where we've seen, in these days where we've seen that air travel can be restricted and you don't want to be getting stuck somewhere, anywhere in the world and not being able to get back to the US. And obviously these were some of the things. Access to medical service is really important to a lot of our clients. A lot of our clients are in a demographic of the baby boomers, and they need to be able to get access to their US health plans and their insurance companies. Getting mail and packages is always important. The cost of living, which we'll talk about in a little bit, is one of the main reasons that people want to choose to move to Mexico, and the affordability of being able to buy an oceanfront or ocean view house is something that maybe you would not be able to do if you wanted to live in California or some of these other coastlines in the US. After 2020, here's what we saw during the post-crisis. So here's what's happening, and we already talked a little bit about this, is people wanting to escape from high-density cities. So people that are in there they're seeing the infection rates go up, or maybe they're concerned that they don't want to be in these cities for whatever reasons, that they don't feel safe. They feel that they want to get to more of a suburb or a place that is not so highly populated. Obviously, that's why one of the reasons they're choosing Rosarito Beach. The city here, and they've done a really good job of implementing safety protocols. Now, we know some of the surrounding cities are being a little bit challenged with the higher infection rates, but Rosarito is really low with the infection and death rate compared to some of the surrounding cities and compared to some of the other cities in the United States. We've been able to implement safety protocols with the lockdown and the social distancing and the mask wearing and everything, that we haven't seen an overwhelming amount of infections in our city. And I'm going to knock on wood that it doesn't come, but I'm really glad that I'm living here, and I'm glad that my family and my friends are here, because I would hate for them to be in a big city and not being able to get away and have that ability to distance themselves from that problem. Okay, so we talked a little bit about the San Diego weather right now. I just want to remind people, because sometimes they forget, some of these other destination places we end up going to just on high seasons when it's the best, and it's when most tourist people go to these places. But you should be really considering, do they have hurricanes, tornadoes, dust storms, extreme heat, blizzards, floods? I mean, we've seen some extreme weather going on around the world right now. And it was funny because me and Louis were talking. Louis goes, yeah, but we had a flood, we had floods here last year. And I'm going, yeah, the streets flooded a little bit during some heavy rains, but nowhere near some of the floods that we've seen happen across the United States where houses were underwater. We don't have those kind of extreme conditions here. So I think that, we get a little bit spoiled here. We think we have weather, but I see people putting snow gear on when it dips below 60 degrees, which for most people that I have, my family coming from back east in Buffalo, they're usually wearing shorts when they come here when it's in the 60s. So once again, we've got some of the best weather in the world here in Rosarito Beach. The cost of living, affordability. We found this slide that online that we think really explains some of the benefits of cost of living. Go ahead, Louis, explain to them this slide.
So basically, this is comparing between the United States and Mexico. What is the cost of living compared to? So for example, if we go down the list, the food is 98% more expensive in the United States than in Mexico. For housing is the same thing. It's 216%. For clothes, transportation, personal care, entertainment, you can see the differences in there. But the total amount, just taking in consideration these categories, is 138%. So the cost of living in the United States is 138% more expensive than in Mexico. Now, this website, what they do is they compile the different information from different people. So if you can see below, this comparison is based on abundant and consistent data. It is based on 60,105 prices entered by 6,964 different people. This is as of May 27, 2020, when the exchange rate was at 22.33.
One of the reasons that we want to share this, because this is really important. So for a lot of people that might have lost their jobs or are on fixed income and they're getting a check from either their pension or Social Security, it really becomes important to go, okay, can they really afford to live in those big cities? Or is the lifestyle that they're having really what they want? And so being able to come down here and have your dollar stretch and go so much farther and to be able to have so much more with that money, I think is important to a lot of people. And we've experienced it, at least I have in my family. When we moved down here, it's different. The amount of money that you spend on food, on housing, on clothes, on services like getting your car washed, having gardener come, all those kind of things that right now in the U.S. are pretty expensive. And there's a lot of other things that are happening in the U.S. that are just sometimes it doesn't make it affordable to be able to stay in that situation on a fixed income or maybe without an income and you're living completely on a savings right now.
Absolutely.
So access to medical care and services, we just touched on this, but once again, we'll go really quickly and I'll let you guys know, having access was so important. And for me, who I had my father down here, he was elderly, I home cared him. Being able to get back and forth over to San Diego to have his medical treatments was so important. Being able to drive across and not have to get on a plane to go do it. We got the best of both worlds. We got to be able to get him medical service, and we were able to live in Rosarito Beach and in Mexico. So we were able to experience the best of both worlds, and that's what's so cool about living in Rosarito Beach.
Right. One of the things is to consider is if you live in other popular areas such as Cancun, you got to take a 7-hour and 30-minute flight back to San Diego. So say, for example, you lived in Cancun, your dad needed medical attention in San Diego because that's where his hospital was or his doctors. You would have to take in a 7-hour flight back to the border and San Diego. And it's just, an expensive way to travel.
And we know that a lot of people got stuck during this pandemic for an extended amount of time. It wasn't something where they were just able to get back to the airport. The airport was canceling flights through a lot of these destinations, obviously for safety reasons. But wouldn't it have been great just to be able to get in your car and be able to drive across the border?
Absolutely. Some people think that Cabo might be, because it's in the Baja California Peninsula, they believe that Cabo is actually very close, but it's not. It actually is more than 22 hours driving distance. And so in order for you to go from Cabo back to San Diego, you have to take a flight, which takes about 1 hour and 55 minutes. So compared to other places, Rosarito is only around 30-minute, drive to the border, which is conveniently accessed, and located.
And we think that's one of the reasons that we're seeing so much traffic specifically right now for Rosarito Beach. People are taking these things into consideration and they're going, well, you know what, we're not sure about, being in these flyaway destinations. We want to be able to drive. We want to have that safety and security that we're going to be able to get back and forth across that border whenever we need to. So we just want to finish up this June 1st market update just with letting people know more people are choosing to make Rosarito Beach their home now more than ever. We're seeing a lot of people, once again, that are looking at Rosarito Beach. And we know that before there was about a 2-year buying cycle from the time people started looking to where they actually would close on their units. So with the amount of traffic that's coming in, even if they got sped up to a 1 year, for the amount of traffic we're getting right now, we're seeing in the next year or two that there's going to be an incredible amount of activity coming to Rosarito Beach. And with the shortage of inventory, we're wanting to tell people, if you're thinking about coming and you're wanting to come and you want to lock in a place, you're probably going to want to do it sooner rather than later. I would wait for the, for the health crisis to pass, but as soon as it's safe to start moving around, make sure you get your appointment set and you get with one of our agents so that way you can find that place and you can enjoy fish tacos and margaritas with the rest of us. We really hope you enjoyed this market update. In the next one, we're going to be talking a little bit more about what people are looking for when it comes to what the product is, because we do believe the product is changing from what they used to want from the pre-crisis to what they want next. And so we're the cool part is we've got a lot of land and we've got a lot of places to build that new product for these new people. So once again, thank you guys, everybody. We really appreciate it, and we'll be talking in the next couple of weeks.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you for watching our video. If you're planning on buying real estate in the Rosarito Beach area, make sure to give us a call. Have a great day, everybody.